Truistory Vibes warmly welcomes all our beloved listeners. We're so glad to see you again in our familiar time slot.
Today,
Truistory Vibes brings you a brand new story, one that we hope will touch your heart and stay with you. As you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing the quote or moment that left the deepest impression on you. Wishing you a wonderful and meaningful listening experience. Emery Harper woke to the soft glow of dawn filtering through the curtains of her bedroom in suburban Portland. The pale light painted gentle patterns on the cream-colored walls, and for a moment, she lay perfectly still, savoring the silence. Her hand drifted down to her rounded belly, and she closed her eyes, pressing her palm against the fine cotton of her maternity shirt. "Good morning, little one," she whispered, voice warm and tender. "It's just you and me now, growing stronger every day." At 29, Emery had already endured more heartbreak than most people experience in a lifetime. 2 years earlier, she had lost her first pregnancy at 12 weeks. The doctor's gentle apologies echoing in her mind long after she left the hospital. 6 months later, a second loss cut even deeper. A knife twisting in her chest when she watched her hopes slip away on that cold examination table. But this time was different. 6 months into her third pregnancy, she felt a new confidence in every flutter and kick, tiny rebellions that reminded her of the life stirring inside. She swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet sinking into the plush rug. Wrapping her robe around her, she walked to the window and gazed out at the quiet street. A light fog clung to the treetops, and the first birds were already chirping in the maple outside. The world felt fresh and full of possibility. Emery allowed herself a small smile. She breathed deeply, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs, and imagined the day she would finally hold her baby in her arms. In the kitchen, the kettle hissed on the stove as she prepared her customary cup of chamomile tea. The familiar aroma soothed her, a ritual she had embraced since her first loss. She pictured the tiny life within her, whispering words of encouragement. "Keep going, little one. You are safe here." The memory of that tender moment when she first saw the flickering heartbeat on the ultrasound screen rose in her mind, and her heart swelled with gratitude. After slipping on her favorite pair of worn jeans and a soft, oversized sweater, Emery reached for the framed photograph on the counter, an image of her and Jasper, arms wrapped around each other on the day they bought their home outside Portland. Jasper's easy smile, his loving gaze, reminded her how blessed she was to have him. At 32, he was steady and kind, a carpenter whose hands shaped beautiful furniture and whose heart sheltered theirs. He had held her through long nights of tears and uncertainty, never wavering, always promising that their time would come. With her tea in hand, Emery sank into the armchair by the window and allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. She remembered the first time she and Jasper talked to their unborn child. It had been at 4 months, in a softly lit examination room. She remembered the way her voice had trembled as she spoke, and the wonder in Jasper's eyes as he pressed his cheek against her belly, his hand splayed over her shirt. "We're here, little one," they had said together. "We're waiting for you." That memory filled her with warmth, and she smiled, imagining that tiny heartbeat echoing her own hope. Outside, a car passed slowly, and she heard the soft beep of its horn. Soon, Jasper would be up, heading into the workshop to begin his day. She looked forward to the moment he would slip into the kitchen, tousled hair still damp from the shower, eyes bright with excitement. He always brought her coffee just the way she liked it, black, with a splash of oat milk.
but for now it was her time.
She drew her legs up and wrapped her arms around her knees, cradling herself as if she were already holding her baby. She let the silence envelop her, the steady rhythm of her breath comforting her soul. In that stillness, she whispered again, "Thank you for staying with me. Thank you for choosing our little family." Her phone buzzed on the side table. A text from her mother. "Have a wonderful morning, sweet girl. I'll call later to see how you're doing." Emery's chest tightened with love. Her mother had been her rock through every trial, offering gentle encouragement and unwavering support. She typed back quickly, "Thanks, Mom. I love you." Setting the phone aside, Emery stood and walked to the old wooden desk where she kept her notebooks. As a writer, she poured her heart into her stories, weaving hope and resilience into every page. Today, she felt inspired to begin a journal for her baby, a chronicle of her thoughts, dreams, and the life they were creating together. She opened a fresh page, uncapped her favorite pen, and began to write. April 14th. Today I felt the strongest kick yet, right after I watched the sunrise. I know you are dancing in there, growing into the brave, wonderful person you are meant to be. I promise to protect you, to teach you kindness, and to love you unconditionally. Emery paused, letting the words sink in before continuing. Outside, the fog slowly lifted, revealing the vibrant green of spring leaves glistening with dew. She wrote on, her heart full. Every day brings us closer to meeting you. Our home is ready for you. Your little crib painted soft gray, blankets folded neatly, a nook by the window where you'll stare at the sky. Jasper, and I can't wait to hold you in our arms. By the time she finished her entry, the kitchen clock chimed 7. The day had officially begun, but Emery lingered in that moment, savoring the promise of new life. Rising, she closed the journal gently and placed it on the shelf, a small smile curving her lips. She poured the last of her tea into the sink and wiped down the counter, anticipation fluttering in her chest. Soon, Jasper would return with that familiar coffee and his reassuring presence. Together, they would face whatever the future held, because this time, the miracle they had longed for was finally on its way. And in that knowledge, Emery felt an unshakable peace. Jasper Caldwell rose before sunrise, as he did every morning, the thrill of a new project pulling him from sleep. At 32, his frame was strong and steady from years of hauling lumber and mastering his craft. He stepped into the cool kitchen, turned on the kettle, and filled his favorite enamel mug with water. While the coffee machine awakened with its familiar hum, Jasper pulled on well-worn jeans and a Henley shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. Every movement felt deliberate, honed by routine. He paused by the window to look across the quiet neighborhood. The maple trees outside their home on the outskirts of Portland rustled in the pre-dawn breeze. A thin layer of mist hovered over the lawn, and Jasper felt a sense of calm resolve wash over him. Today would be another day shaping oak and ash. The custom woodworking shop he had built from the ground up and caring for his family. He poured the hot water over freshly ground beans and breathed in the rich aroma. Just then, the front door clicked open. Emery entered, clad in soft grays and blues, her hand unconsciously resting on the curve of her belly. Jasper's face brightened. He set down his mug and crossed the kitchen in 2 strides, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Morning, love," he whispered against her neck. His voice carried tenderness, a comforting blend of excitement and protectiveness. Emery leaned back into him, closing her eyes. "Morning, Jazz," she replied softly. "Smells good." He kissed her temple and retrieved 2 steaming cups. "Your favorite oat milk latte, just how you like it." They seated themselves at the small farmhouse table, mugs cradled in their hands. Jasper watched Emery take that first appreciative sip. He knew well how much she cherished these quiet moments before the day's demands. They spoke in whispers about the baby's latest kicks, their hopes for the nursery, and the workshop's client schedule. Once breakfast was done, Jasper grabbed his leather apron and headed out the back door, Emery's encouraging smile following him. The workshop sat behind their house, a converted garage insulated for winter and outfitted with top-quality tools. Inside, the scent of cedar and oak mingled with sawdust, a fragrance he loved almost as much as being with Emery. Jasper ran a hand over the wide new slab of walnut destined to become the shop's signature farmhouse table. He admired its live edge, tracing the natural curves with his fingertips. Careful planning and respect for the wood's character guided every one of his creations. For Jasper, woodworking wasn't just a job, it was a conversation with nature, a dance between human intention and organic beauty. Today's priority was a bespoke crib for their unborn child, a piece that held special meaning. Jasper measured twice, cut once, and sanded meticulously, ensuring every joint fit seamlessly. His knuckles bore faint scars from years of shaping wood, but each nick reminded him of lessons learned, the value of patience, precision, and humility before the material. As he worked, his mind drifted to Emery and the life they were crafting together. He visualized the crib painted soft gray, nestled in her carefully arranged nursery. He imagined late-night feedings, Emery's gentle voice lulling their baby to sleep while he watched, heart swelling with love. Every shave of wood, every brushstroke of finish, was a promise. He would protect and provide for the family he adored. Around 10 o'clock, he paused to check his phone. A quick text from Emery. "Lunch in 20? Can't wait to feel you hold me." Jasper grinned. He replied, "Count on it. Heading home soon." Back at the table by midday, they shared sandwiches and laughter. Emery described a new poem she was working on, and Jasper offered ideas for arranging her desk near the window. He admired her creativity, how she translated emotion into words, how she infused hope into every sentence. Their partnership was a balance of hands and heart, of wood and words, woven seamlessly together. After lunch, Jasper returned to Oak and Ash to meet a client commissioning a live-edge conference table for a local startup. He welcomed them into the workshop, showing off grain samples and detailing how each board was sustainably sourced. He spoke with warmth and confidence, genuine in his craft and proud of the reputation he'd built. By late afternoon, he took a break to call Emery. She sounded radiant, describing the soft kick she felt after her doctor's appointment. Jasper closed his eyes, picturing their child moving inside her. "You two are quite the team," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I promise we'll give you the best life we can." When the sun dipped low, Jasper shut down his tools and cleaned his station. He removed his apron and slipped out of the workshop, grabbing a light jacket against the evening chill. Walking back toward the house, sawdust clinging to his jeans, he felt a profound sense of purpose. Inside, Emery greeted him with open arms and a cup of steaming cocoa. He set down his jacket and bent to kiss her, inhaling the comforting scent of chamomile lingering in the air. Together, they leaned against the counter, sharing that silent, perfect contentment only two people entwined in love and anticipation could feel. As twilight settled, Jasper thought back on his early days struggling to find his calling. He'd apprenticed under a master carpenter, learned to respect both beauty and function, and cultivated a dream of a workshop built on integrity. Now, every plank he transformed, every piece of furniture he delivered, carried the legacy of that dream and the promise of his new family. In the gentle glow of their kitchen, Emery's hand found his, resting on his palm. He looked down into her eyes and murmured, "Thank you for believing in us." She smiled, warmth radiating. "Always," she replied. And in that moment, Jasper knew that no project, no milestone, no challenge could overshadow the simple power of being a husband, a soon-to-be father, and the heart of Oak and Ash. The late morning sun slanted through the tall windows of Oak and Ash, illuminating floating dust motes like golden confetti. Jasper was finishing the final coat of satin finish on the custom crib when the workshop door swung open with a soft chime. He looked up from his workbench to see a striking figure framed in light. Sloane Marshall, 27, the university classmate whose charm had once swept him off his feet. Sloane wore a tailored leather jacket over a white silk blouse, designer jeans hugging long legs, an effortless combination of edgy and elegant. Her dark hair was tucked behind one ear, revealing a small hoop earring that caught the light. She stepped inside, scanning the workshop as if assessing every tool and grain of wood. Jasper's chest tightened, and he laid down his brush. "Sloane," he said, voice cautious but polite. "What brings you to Portland?" She smiled, a slow, knowing curve of her lips. "I'm in town on business," she replied, her voice smooth like velvet. "I thought I'd stop by and see how my favorite carpenter is doing." Her eyes flicked to Emery, who stood quietly near the doorway, hand resting protectively on her belly. Emery offered a polite nod.
Sloan.
It's been a while. That it has, Sloane said, stepping forward with deliberate ease. Emery Harper, the writer, Jasper's amazing wife. Her tone was friendly, but her eyes searched Emery's face with calculated curiosity. Jasper felt a flicker of irritation. I'm almost done here, he said, gesturing toward the crib. Can I get you coffee? Sloane's gaze traveled along the crib's elegant lines. I'd love that. As Jasper headed to the kitchen, Sloane turned to Emery, leaning in slightly. Congratulations on the pregnancy, she said softly, voice low enough that only Emery could hear. 6 months, good news. Emery smiled, though her eyes narrowed slightly. Thank you. Sloane tilted her head, studying Emery's silhouette. You look peaceful. The word hung in the air. A far cry from the girl I met in Seattle. Emery felt a twinge of discomfort. I'm glad you think so. Jasper reappeared with 2 steaming mugs and set one in front of Sloane. Here you go. He handed the other to Emery. They settled at the workbench, cups in hand. Sloane sipped, then raised an eyebrow. Portland coffee hasn't improved much since I left. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Still bitter enough to wake a night owl. Emery forced a laugh. We like it that way. Sloane's attention drifted around the room, the rows of chisels, planers, and the half-built table awaiting a client's approval. She leaned back on the workbench, crossing a perfectly manicured leg over the other. You've done well, Jasper. Oak and ash has become quite the destination. Thanks, he said. We've worked hard. Emery watched Sloane carefully. She remembered those early days when Sloane had arrived in Jasper's life. The late-night phone calls, the impromptu trips to art galleries, the excitement of stolen moments before a big deadline. It had taken Emery months to realize that Sloane was never truly looking for Jasper. She was chasing a thrill. Sloane glanced at Emery's coffee mug. How are you handling parenthood? Are you writing about it? Emery tightened her grip around the mug. I'm journaling, yes. I plan to turn it into a memoir someday. A flicker of something, envy, admiration, or calculation, passed through Sloane's eyes. That's wonderful, she said. Sharing your truth can be so powerful. She paused, then added with thinly veiled curiosity. I heard Jasper's spending a lot on the nursery. Must be nice to have that kind of budget. Emery set her mug down deliberately. It's been a team effort. Jasper sensed the tension and rose. Well, it's great to see you, Sloane, but I've got a deadline for a conference table. Why don't you join us for lunch tomorrow? Emery, you in? Emery hesitated, then nodded.
Sure.
Sloane's smile was radiant. Perfect. I'd love to catch up properly. She lifted her mug in a toast. To old friends. Emery and Jasper clinked cups, but the sound rang hollow. Later that afternoon, as Jasper returned to sanding the crib, Emery lingered in the doorway. Be careful around her, she said quietly. Jasper paused, sanding block in hand. She's just a friend. Emery crossed her arms. She hasn't been just a friend for a long time. Jasper's expression softened. I know what you're thinking, but that was years ago, before we were married. He set the sanding block down and came to her side. She's here for business. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Emery looked up at him, her eyes glistening. I don't want her in our home again. He reached for her hand. I'll handle it. That night, as Emery drifted off to sleep, she replayed Sloane's visit in her mind, the way she'd observed the crib, the subtle jabs about money, the lingering tone when she said, the girl I met in Seattle. Emery drew the blankets closer, determined to protect her family from history repeating itself. Across town, Sloane lay awake, scrolling through Jasper's Instagram feed. Photos of Emery's belly, sketches of future furniture, glimpses of domestic bliss. A slow smile curved her lips. She tapped out a message to a friend. Phase 1 complete. Next step, securing Jasper's attention. In the darkness, the workshop's neon sign flickered through the window. casting a pale glow on oak and Ash's dusty floorboards. Sloane's reflection shimmered against the glass, calm, composed, and ready to rewrite the story she'd started years ago. And somewhere in that quiet, calculated moment, a storm began to gather on the horizon of Emery and Jasper's once unshakable life. Saturday afternoon settled over the Caldwell household in a lazy haze of sunlight and half-finished projects. Emery was upstairs in the nursery, arranging framed prints of woodland animals along the pastel walls, while Jasper loaded freshly cut lumber into his truck for Monday's delivery. The front door clicked, and Aunt Penelope Marshall swept in, her floral blouse and pearl necklace as immaculate as always. At 50, Penelope carried herself with an air of genteel authority, soft gray curls perfectly coiffed, cat-eye glasses perched on the tip of her nose. She clasped Emery's hand with brisk efficiency. "My dear, you're positively glowing," she announced, her voice rich and measured. 6 months is a milestone worth celebrating. Emery offered a polite smile. "Thank you, Aunt Penelope." Penelope glanced around the nursery, lips curving into a tender smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I see you two spared no expense. Darling crib, lovely color palette." She tapped her manicured finger against the pale gray dresser. "But tell me, have you considered a live-in nurse? You know how delicate second pregnancies can be." A pang of discomfort echoed through Emery's chest. She had anticipated gentle concern, but Penelope's tone carried subtle doubt. "I'm under excellent care," Emery replied evenly. "My doctor says everything is progressing well." Penelope's eyebrows lifted. "Oh, I'm sure. But you've had those 2 miscarriages, haven't you? It must be distressing." She paused, folding her hands. "I only worry you've struggled before, Emery. One never knows." Emery's heart clenched. Memories of sterile hospital corridors and late-night tears flooded back, the pain still raw despite the passing months. She pressed her lips together, determination rising like a shield. "I understand your concern, but this time feels different," she said, voice steady. "I'm strong, and this baby is strong." Penelope tilted her head, regarding Emery with an analytical gaze. "Strength is as much mind as body," she said softly. "Just promise me you won't overexert yourself. No lifting heavy baskets, no climbing ladders around the house." Jasper appeared at the nursery door, wiping sawdust from his hands. "Mum," he said warmly, moving to embrace his mother. "Good to see you." Penelope sighed, releasing Emery's hand to hug her son. "I adore your wife, Jasper, but she must be careful." She straightened and turned back to Emery. "When I was expecting your cousin Samuel," she winked at Jasper, "I found bed rest was essential. You must take it seriously." Emery met Jasper's eyes, silently conveying her frustration. He gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "We appreciate the advice, Mom," he said, voice protective. Penelope gave a small nod. "I only speak from experience." She plucked a photo frame off a nearby shelf, a snapshot of her own daughter's wedding, with a healthy baby boy cradled in her arms. "Your aunt had complications, you see. No one expected it. But we were fortunate." She placed the frame back and turned away. For a moment, silence filled the room. The ticking of the baby monitor sounded unnaturally loud. Emery took a slow breath. "I promise to be careful," she said at last. Penelope's gaze softened. "That's all I ask." She reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. "And I've arranged a spa day for you, prenatal massage, relaxation. Consider it a treat." Emery forced a thankful smile. "That's very thoughtful of you." As Penelope departed a few minutes later, Emery closed the nursery door and leaned against it, exhaling in relief. Jasper joined her, pulling her into his arms. "You okay?" he murmured. Emery nodded, voice quivering. "She makes it sound like I'm one setback away from disaster." Jasper pressed his lips to her temple. "She's just worried." "I know," Emery whispered. "But every reminder of those losses still hurts. I don't need it right now." Jasper tightened his hold. "I'll talk to her." Emery shook her head. "Maybe later. Tonight, Let's just focus on us. That evening, over a simple dinner of roasted vegetables and fresh bread, Penelope's words echoed in Emery's mind. The nursery lamp cast a warm glow on the crib, its smooth lines reminding her of the life she carried. She reached out, tracing the wood with trembling fingertips. In her journal later that night, Emery wrote, "Today, Aunt Penelope reminded me of my past losses, her concerns so gentle, yet laced with doubt. While I cherish her love, I won't let fear overshadow hope. This baby is ours, and we are strong together." She closed the journal and lay in Jasper's arms, determined that no amount of well-intended worry would unravel her faith. As she drifted to sleep, she whispered to the life within, "We're safe. We're ready." The clinching moment came on a wind-whipped autumn evening when Portland's sky was painted with bruised purples and smoky grays. The air held a nervous energy, leaves rattling down the street in swirling eddies. Emery had just finished preparing dinner, roasted butternut squash and fresh green beans, and was setting the table when her phone buzzed with a text from Jasper. "Running late. Client emergency. Eat without me?" She frowned but didn't reply. She knew how Jasper felt about taking on extra work. If there was a way to help the family, he would find it. She placed 2 plates on the table, the steam curling up like mild tendrils of calm. Then she heard the first explosion of light, a brilliant flare of orange behind their home, followed by the unmistakable crackle of flame. Heart pounding, Emery abandoned the dinner plates and raced outside. The night air was cold against her bare arms, the wind chasing her down the path to the workshop. The old garage, oak and ash, was ablaze, its broad windows glowing like molten gold. Flames licked the wooden eaves, roaring with hungry ferocity, and a column of black smoke curled into the sky. "Jasper," she screamed, fumbling for her phone to call him. But her hands trembled so badly that she let the phone clatter to the pavement. Through the inferno, she saw movement. A figure stepping away from the workshop's side door, coat flapping in the wind. "Aunt Penelope," Emery thought at first, but the stranger paused, turning just enough for Emery to recognize the sleek silhouette and dark hair of Sloane Marshall. Sloane tossed something behind her, and Emery realized with cold horror that it had been a rag smeared with gasoline. The rag landed among a pile of wood scraps and sparked another explosion of flame. Sloane stepped back calmly, adjusting her leather jacket. For a heart-stopping moment, she looked almost serene under the flickering light. Then she melted into the shadows of the hedgerow, leaving Emery frozen on the walkway. Sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors had called 911. Emery stumbled forward, coughing as smoke drifted over her. She pounded on the workshop door. "Jasper. Jasper." No answer. The heat intensified, and the windows fractured with a deafening crack. Her chest tightened. Inside that workshop lived more than tools and timber. It held Jasper's dreams. The crib for their child, every piece of furniture Jasper had lovingly crafted. Now it was tinder in a hurricane. The fire department arrived in a whirlwind of flashing lights. Firefighters unrolled hoses, their boots clanging on the driveway. A tall firefighter grabbed Emery's arm gently. "Ma'am, step back. We're going to get this under control." Through the chaos, Emery tried to catch her breath. "My husband. He was in there," she whispered, tears streaking down her cheeks. "He must be in there." The firefighter's voice was firm but kind. "We're checking inside. Let us do our job." Emery watched as they charged toward the door, axes in hand. Water hissed as it met flame, steam shooting into the night. She turned away briefly, trying to stem the panic rising in her throat. Then she heard a shout. "Lady, he's out." A firefighter emerged from the haze, carrying Jasper's leather apron and a bloodied rag from a cut on his arm. A second firefighter followed, and there was Jasper himself, ash on his face, eyes wide, chest heaving. He dropped to his knees at Emery's side. He gasped, voice hoarse. "Thank God you're okay." He wrapped his arms around her, their bodies trembling in the night air. She clung to him, feeling the jagged edges of fear and relief. "Jazz, you're safe," Emery sobbed. But the workshop. His eyes flicked over the burning building, mouth twisting in pain. I tried. I went in to grab the crib frame, but the heat drove me back. I got out as fast as I could. Emery stroked his soot-streaked hair.
I saw her, she said quietly.
I saw Sloane said it. Jasper's jaw clenched. Sloane. She was there. She lit the rag. I know it was her. He pressed a shaking hand to his forehead. I should have known. Why would she do this? Emery's tears fell harder. Because she can't have what we have. The firefighters finally had the blaze under control, though embers still glowed in the rafters. Jasper stood beside Emery, arms around her, both soaking in the devastation. The charred skeleton of oak and ash seemed surreal under the streetlights. Smoke curled from collapsed beams, and the air still crackled with heat. After the fire was deemed out, a detective arrived, notebook in hand. He asked standard questions, but Emery could barely speak. Jasper answered, voice low but steady, describing the figure he'd glimpsed in the shadows. Later, as the fire trucks departed and the smoke drifted away, Emery and Jasper stood hand in hand before what remained of his life's work. He bent down and scooped up a small piece of charred wood, one of the crib's decorative slats. He held it gently, as if it weighed nothing at all. Emery rested her head on his shoulder. We'll rebuild, she said, voice firm despite the trembling inside. We'll rebuild together. Jasper closed his eyes, tears glinting in the streetlight. Yes, he whispered.
Together.
And in that vow, as ashes drifted around them like dark snow, Emery felt the ember of their hope ignite anew. The night oak and ash went up in flames would mark the end of one chapter. But she and Jasper would write the next, stronger than ever before. The sunrise over Mount Hood was barely a whisper of pink as Jasper Caldwell pulled onto the highway, bound for Portland International Airport. His heart pounded with anticipation. This trip to Seattle wasn't just another business meeting, it was the linchpin for Oak and Ash's revival. As he drove, he replayed every detail of the pitch he'd prepared for Quinn Hayes, the dynamic owner of Brightbound Cafe and Books, who had offered to introduce him to investors in Seattle's thriving artisan community. Jasper parked in the terminal lot, his mind shifting between the comforting weight of Emery's love at home and the heavy responsibility he carried for their future. He checked his phone for texts from Emery.
Be safe.
I miss you already. Don't forget to eat. He typed a quick reply, love you.
See you soon.
He boarded the propeller plane bound for Seattle, settling into the window seat. Through the oval window, he watched the Willamette Valley recede beneath him, replaced by rugged coastline as they flew north. He imagined Emery and Rowan, her tiny kicks that afternoon, the warmth of their family home, and a pang of guilt knotted in his chest. But he shook it off. This trip, he reminded himself, was for them. The plane touched down at Boeing Field just after 10. Seattle's skyline, space needle piercing the morning haze, welcomed him. He hailed a cab and gave the driver Quinn's cafe address, a converted warehouse in Capitol Hill known for its vaulted ceilings, shelves of well-thumbed novels, and the scent of freshly ground coffee. Inside Brightbound, the mood was vibrant. Sunlight poured through industrial windows onto mismatched tables, and patrons lounged over espresso and lattes. Quinn Hayes stood behind the counter, tall, vivacious, with cropped platinum hair and a tailored blazer that spoke of quiet confidence. She waved him over, and he approached, smiling with relief. Jasper Caldwell, he said, extending his hand. Thanks for meeting me on short notice. Quinn clasped his hand firmly. No problem. I've been looking forward to this. Her eyes sparkled. Let's grab coffee and talk shop. They settled at a reclaimed wood table near the back. Quinn ordered their drinks, Jasper a black Americano, Quinn a lavender latte. She pulled out a sleek tablet and tapped the screen. I've lined up a small group of craft-focused investors for this afternoon. They want to hear about Oak and Ash's vision. Jasper nodded and exhaled slowly. I have the presentation ready. He launched into his pitch. High-quality, sustainably sourced hardwoods, custom designs that balanced function and form. a commitment to local artisans and eco-friendly practices. He showcased photos of past projects, including the crib he'd almost finished before the fire, and emphasized oak and ash's unique position in Portland's market. Quinn listened intently, occasionally asking sharp, insightful questions. What's your production capacity? How do you plan to scale responsibly? What are your projected margins once you secure funding? Each question tested Jasper's assumptions, but he answered confidently, citing spreadsheets and prototypes. After 45 minutes, Quinn leaned back, sipping her latte. Impressive, she said. These investors appreciate authenticity. They want to see passion as much as profit. She tapped a button on her tablet and slid it across the table. Here's the schedule. First meetings in 1 hour. Jasper scanned the list. 3 local business owners known for supporting craft entrepreneurs. He swallowed a lump in his throat. Thank you for making this happen. Quinn waved it off. You've earned it. I believe in your work. Alone for a moment, Jasper allowed himself a smile. He stood and stretched, anticipation coursing through him. Outside, Seattle's cool breeze carried the briny scent of Puget Sound. He inhaled deeply, a reminder of why he sought this partnership, not just to restore his workshop, but to rebuild a legacy for his family. The first investor, a boutique furniture retailer, arrived punctually. Jasper presented his samples: maple cutting boards with live edges, ash coffee tables with minimalist lines. They examined the grain, nodded thoughtfully, and discussed market demand. By the end, Jasper felt a spark of connection. The retailer's nod of approval bolstered his confidence. Next, he met a small group venture partner focused on women-led enterprises. She studied Jasper's social impact plan, how he'd hired local veterans and offered apprenticeships to underserved youth. She seemed genuinely moved. This is the kind of community-driven ethos we champion, she said. Count me interested. The last meeting was the most daunting. A tech executive turned angel investor whose portfolio spanned software startups and artisanal food producers. He arrived wearing sleek black jeans and aviator shades, pocket square artfully folded. His voice cut through the cafe hum. Let's talk numbers. Jasper dove into projections, startup costs, expected revenue streams, break-even timelines. There were moments of tense silence when the investor tapped his pen against the table, eyes narrowing. Jasper's palms felt sweaty, but he held steady. When he finished, the investor leaned back, removing his shades. You've done your homework, he said. I like that you're rooted in craftsmanship. I'm in for an initial round. Relief crashed through Jasper like a wave. He managed a grateful grin. Thank you. Quinn returned as the investor stood to shake Jasper's hand. Congratulations, she said. That's a solid start. They spent the rest of the afternoon finalizing terms, exchanging business cards, and forging the beginnings of partnerships. By early evening, Jasper had secured enough seed capital to rebuild oak and ash with expanded workspace and new equipment, and to ensure Emery's dreams of a cozy nursery would become reality. As the cafe emptied, Quinn walked Jasper to the door. You did well, she said. Portland's lucky to have you. Jasper hesitated, searching her eyes. He remembered Emery's texts, imagining her gentle smile. Thank you, he replied, for everything. He caught the light rail to the airport, arriving just before sunset. The flight back was quieter. He dozed against the window. Visions of newborn giggles and freshly finished furniture dancing together. By the time he landed in Portland, dusk had settled. The city lights winked on, and a chill rain began to fall. Jasper drove home through empty streets, heart full. The past week's chaos felt distant now, reborn into tangible progress. He pulled into the driveway and found Emery on the porch. Hood pulled tight, umbrella shielding her from rain. She stepped forward, eyes bright. You got it, she asked. He stepped out, shaking off water, and enveloped her in his arms. We got it, he said, voice steady with promise. We're rebuilding, Emery. Together. She closed her eyes against his chest and whispered, Welcome home. Under that gentle rain, Jasper realized that every mile traveled, Every meeting endured had been worth it. The next chapter of Oak and Ash, and their family story, was beginning, grounded in hope and strengthened by resilience. Jasper's first meeting with Thea Sullivan was purely professional. Brightbound Cafe and Books had recently expanded its event space, and Quinn Hayes wanted to commission a custom bar height table for author readings and community gatherings. Quinn had spoken highly of Thea, the cafe's operations manager, and introduced them one brisk autumn morning. In the warm glow of the cafe's high ceilings, Jasper spotted her. Thea stood behind the service counter, coordinating a delivery of locally roasted beans. She was 30 years old, with chestnut hair loosely tied back, a few strands escaping to frame her face. Her hazel eyes were bright with purpose as she juggled inventory logs on a tablet. When she greeted Jasper, her voice was warm and genuine, but there was an undercurrent of something deeper, a spark of recognition, a silent appraisal. "Jasper Caldwell?" she asked, extending a slender hand. "It's great to finally meet you. Quinn says you work wonders with wood." He shook her hand, noting the firmness of her grip.
Plisuris mine, te.
"I've heard a lot about your vision for the space." They moved to a corner table, and Thea slid out samples of reclaimed wood that Jasper had brought: walnut, maple, and a striking piece of spalted birch. As he described grain patterns and finish options, Thea listened closely, asking insightful questions about sustainability and durability. Her focus was impressive. She balanced a deep respect for craftsmanship with a clear understanding of branding and customer experience. Over the next several weeks, Jasper made multiple trips to Brightbound to refine the table's design. Each time, Thea was there, greeting him with a warm smile and ready corrections to the specs. They worked side by side, measuring spaces, marking timber, testing prototypes. Jasper found himself looking forward to her arrival each morning, her easy laugh as she filled his travel mug with chai latte, the soft click of her heels echoing in the foyer. One afternoon, after a particularly productive design session, Thea invited Jasper to join her for a cup of coffee. They sat at a small bistro table near the window, watching pedestrians hurry by beneath a canopy of golden leaves. "I've been meaning to thank you," Thea said, stirring her latte thoughtfully. "Not just for the table design, but for how you've engaged with our community here. People talk about Oak and Ash like it's more than a business, it's part of the neighborhood." Jasper smiled appreciatively. "That means a lot coming from you." "It's the same for me. I love how Brightbound brings everyone together." They fell into easy conversation, discovering shared interests, local hiking trails, a passion for jazz music, and a soft spot for old puzzle books. Jasper found her intelligence and kindness disarmingly attractive. Thea, too, seemed to warm to him. Her initial professional reserve gave way to genuine curiosity about his life in Portland, his family, and most tenderly, his unborn child. One rainy evening, after the table was finally installed in the event space, Quinn hosted a small launch party. The cafe buzzed with patrons sipping wine and sampling hors d'oeuvres. Jazz riffs floated over the chatter, and the new table stood proudly beneath soft pendant lights. Quinn raised a glass and praised both Thea's leadership and Jasper's artistry. After the applause faded, Jasper found Thea near the bar, watching him with a smile that held more than congratulations. He joined her, and they talked quietly, the air between them charged with unspoken possibility. As the night wound down, Thea leaned close. "I should probably let your wife know you're still here," she teased gently, but her eyes lingered on Jasper's face. Jasper swallowed hard. "Emery's waiting for me back home. I should go." She nodded, but did not step away. "Thank you for making our space special, and for listening." In that moment, Jasper felt a pull he hadn't anticipated, a tension between loyalty and desire. He bowed his head, grateful for her kindness. "Good night, Thea." Over the next few weeks, their interactions deepened beyond business. Thea shared stories of growing up in Seattle, her dreams cut short by family circumstances that had forced her to mature quickly. Jasper spoke of Emery's writing projects and his own hopes for building a workshop that would outlast him. They confided small details, the kind that build intimacy. Then came the revelation. Thea called Jasper one morning, voice trembling. "Jasper, I need to tell you something." They met at the cafe before opening hours. In the hushed stillness, Thea looked at him with vulnerability he'd never seen.
I'm pregnant.
Jasper's heart lurched. Thea's expression fell, tears glistening. "I tested at home. I should have known. I missed a period. I'm 5 weeks along." The world slowed. Jasper felt the weight of every promise he'd made to Emery, the anticipation of Rowan's arrival, and the shock of this new reality. "I understand," he whispered, though he had no idea how. His mind raced. A life inside Emery's womb, a new life inside Thea's. He reached for her hand, voice gentle. "You're going to be okay. We'll figure this out." Thea exhaled, relief mingled with fear. "I don't want to lose this baby. You mean so much to me, more than I ever expected." He closed his eyes, torn between his commitments. "You're not alone," he promised, though the words felt fragile. "I care about you. I'll be here." In the days that followed, Jasper found himself straddling two worlds. He returned to Portland with a heavy heart, replaying every encounter with Thea. Emery's joyful texts anchored him. "Baby kicked today. I can't wait for your goodnight call." Yet his mind drifted to Thea, her hopeful gaze. The quiet strength in her voice when she said, "We'll figure this out." Back in Seattle, Thea's messages poured in. Ultrasound results showing a healthy heartbeat, questions about next steps, and raw admissions of fear. Jasper responded with careful support, medical referrals, financial planning, assurances of emotional backing. Each message tightened the knot of guilt in his chest. By the time he reunited with Emery on the porch in the pouring rain, he felt torn. Emery embraced him, oblivious to the storm brewing within his own heart. He held her close, breathing in her familiar scent, but every word she spoke sounded distant. That night, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, Emery drifted to sleep quickly. Jasper lay awake, illuminated by the glow of his phone as he typed a careful note to Thea. He set the phone down, hollow with the weight of his double life. Tomorrow, he swore, he would find a way to reconcile these two realities. But tonight, he lay between two worlds, one anchored in the promise of a faithful family, the other afloat on the uncertain currents of a love born out of shared vulnerability. Morning light found Jasper resolved to speak with Thea in person. He knew the conversation would change everything, his marriage, his dreams, his future. And yet, as he drove back to Seattle, he felt an odd sense of clarity. The road ahead would be treacherous. But he could not ignore the life growing inside Thea any more than he could deny the life growing with Emery. In this tangled web of love and responsibility, Jasper realized there could be no simple answers, only the courage to face the consequences of his choices. The gray light of dawn filtered through the bedroom curtains as Emery awoke to an empty side of the bed. Her heart fluttered with a familiar ache. Jasper had been increasingly distant these past weeks, and she feared today would bring the reckoning. Downstairs, the house was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the creak of floorboards under her feet. She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders and carried her mug of chamomile tea into the living room, where the midday sun now warmed the hardwood floors. On the coffee table lay a thick envelope addressed in Jasper's precise handwriting. For Emery. With trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside were 2 printed pages. Jasper's formal petition for divorce, followed by a personal letter. Her breath caught as she read his words. "Emery, over the past months I have failed you. My actions, my betrayal, are inexcusable. I love you still, but I cannot erase the hurt I have caused. It breaks my heart to ask this, but I believe our paths must separate so we each may heal. I hope someday you can forgive me. Love always. Jasper." Tears blurred her vision. She sank onto the sofa, wrapping her arms around herself as memories cascaded through her mind. The day they first met, the quiet evenings by the fire, the tiny cradle he built for their child. Beneath the pain, a fierce determination flared. She would not be defined by his betrayal. She rose and paced the room, her mind racing. Just days ago, they had shared a tender moment by the fireplace in their living room. Jasper had returned from Seattle with promising news of funding, and they had celebrated with gentle laughter.
Now,
That foundation felt irrevocably fractured. Jasper found her there mid-morning, pale and resolute. He stood in the doorway, shoulders hunched, guilt etched across his face. He said softly, voice cracking.
I'm sorry.
She met his gaze, steady despite her trembling heart. Why? He clenched his hands at his sides. I tried to reconcile everything, to be a husband to you and to support Thea. But I realize now I cannot do either. I betrayed your trust, and I don't deserve your forgiveness. Emery folded her arms. You put me in this position. He swallowed. I know, and I understand if you can never forgive me. Silence stretched between them. Emery thought of their baby, Rowan, his tiny kicks, his bright eyes that would soon open to a world forever altered by their choices. She thought of the nursery, once a sanctuary of hope, now a reminder of promises broken. I need to know one thing, she said at last, voice firm. Did you ever love me? In those moments when you thought no one was watching? Jasper's eyes filled with tears. Every day, he whispered. Even now, I love you. Emery nodded slowly, pain and resolve mingling in her expression. That's what makes this so hard. But love isn't always enough. You shattered the trust between us. He knelt beside her. You never came clean until it was too late. Her words stung him, and his shoulders shook with remorse. He let go of her hand, rising to his feet. I'll sign the papers, he said quietly. I want to make this as painless as possible. Emery exhaled, the tension in her chest easing slightly. No, she said firmly. Not painless. This hurts, and I deserve to feel that. But I also deserve clarity. They walked together into the study, where the oak desk held the divorce paperwork. Jasper sat, pen trembling as he completed his signature. Emery watched, each stroke a final severing of their shared life. When he finished, he handed the papers to her. Your turn. Emery took the pen and, after a moment's hesitation, signed her name. As the ink dried, a bittersweet relief settled over her. Their partnership of 6 years, the marriage vows, the shared dreams, the long nights of building a life, ended with that single action. Jasper rose, crossing to stand before her. Emery, I'm so sorry. She met his gaze with tears still glistening. I know, she said softly. I hope you find your path, Jasper. I need to find mine. He nodded, eyes hollow with regret. I will always be grateful for you, for our daughter. Emery's heart seized at the word daughter. She laid a hand on her belly, where Rowan stirred, oblivious to the turmoil. She remembered the day she first felt his fluttering kick, and a fierce resolve ignited within her. She would protect Rowan, she would rebuild, and she would love him without hesitation. Outside, rain began to patter against the window pane, as if the sky itself mourned with them. In that quiet conclusion, Emery found a measure of peace. The marriage was over, but her life, the new chapter, still lay ahead, unwritten and filled with the promise of hope. She turned toward Jasper one last time. Goodbye, she whispered. He closed his eyes, tears falling unbidden. Goodbye, Emery. With that, he left the study, stepping into a world they would no longer share. Emery watched until the door closed softly behind him. Then she sank to the floor, cradling her belly, and let the tears fall freely. In the silence, she whispered, I will be okay. For us. And as the rain fell steadily outside, Emery Harper Caldwell, soon to be just Emery Harper, rose again, determined to embrace the life she would build for herself and for their child. The September sky over Seattle was the color of weathered slate as Emery Harper stepped off the light rail at Capitol Hill Station, her son Rowan bundled in a navy blue stroller and blankets. The crisp autumn air carried the scent of falling leaves, roasted coffee, and distant driftwood smoke from the Puget Sound shore. In her hand, she clutched a worn leather satchel. Inside lay her journal entries, half-finished essays, a modest stack of business cards bearing her new title, Emery Harper, writer and designer, and a single photograph of the charred remains of oak and ash, the workshop in Portland where her life had once burned to ashes. It had been 6 months since the divorce finalization, 6 months since the fire that consumed not only wood and dreams, but also the fragile foundation of her marriage. Yet here she was, stepping forward into a future she had determined to claim on her own terms. Her apartment above an art studio in the Pike/Pine corridor was modest, but suffused with golden morning light. Emery had painted the walls a pale sage green and lined the single bedroom with driftwood shelves salvaged from her childhood fence, now repurposed to display Rowan's wooden puzzles and his favorite board books. The living room doubled as her writing office, a reclaimed oak plank desk harvested from her parents' yard, flanked by stacks of dog-eared journals on a vintage metal bookshelf. On her desk stood a small vase of dried lavender, a gift from Quinn Hayes, owner of the Brightbound Cafe and Books where Emery now worked part-time. Quinn had become both mentor and friend, offering encouragement when hope seemed brittle. That morning, after securing Rowan at Little Mariners Preschool, a cozy neighborhood daycare where teachers greeted him by name and guided him through storytime, Emery returned to Brightbound for her Saturday workshop. She had titled it From Ashes to Inspiration, Journaling Through Life's Flames, a nod to both her personal journey and the emblematic rebirth she sought to inspire in others. 13 participants, new parents clutching lattes and notepads, filled the back room. When Emery greeted them, she noted the mix of curiosity and vulnerability in their eyes. She offered each a Roots and Wings journaling kit, one of her harbor and hearth creations, containing a hand-bound notebook, wax seal, ink pen, and guided prompts. She explained that each kit had been crafted to infuse hope and resilience into the writing process, that each page held an opportunity to record both the ache of the past and the promise of tomorrow. As she began the session, her voice steady, she shared the prologue of her memoir draft, the terrifying roar of flames engulfing oak and ash, the acrid heat that forced Jasper to retreat empty-handed. The night, she signed the divorce papers with trembling certainty. She watched tears well in her students' eyes as they realized they were not alone in their losses. Then she guided them through a prompt. Describe a moment when you first sensed life returning after a loss. What did you feel? What colors, sounds, or textures came to mind? Soft scribbles filled the room. Parents wrote of a newborn's first coo at 3 a.m., of the smell of pancakes comforting a grieving spouse, of the sound of rain pattering on a windowsill during a sleepless night. As they shared, a tapestry of empathy grew. Emery realized she had created not only a workshop but a community of healing. After the session, Quinn approached Emery with a broad smile. You've outdone yourself. We're fully booked for next month. People are calling from Tacoma and even Vancouver. Your workshops are resonating. Quinn's enthusiasm warmed Emery's heart. Thank you, Emery said, voice soft. It's more than just journaling. It's reclaiming our stories. Emery's personal business, Harbor and Hearth, had launched quietly online that spring, partnering with a local letterpress printer and vegan leather supplier. She released limited edition Roots and Wings kits in an initial run of 100. Within a fortnight, they sold out. Orders poured in from new parents in Brooklyn, retirees in Florida, and aspiring writers in Austin. Each package was wrapped in tissue stamped with oak leaves, sealed with wax, and accompanied by a handwritten thank you note and a sprig of dried lavender. As she dropped her final order at the post office, Emery felt a surge of pride. She had created her own livelihood, one rooted in both vulnerability and craft. Meanwhile, across the bay in Portland, Jasper Caldwell had overseen oak and ash's reconstruction. Investors Quinn introduced had funded the expansion of the workshop's footprint, allowing Jasper to hire 2 apprentices and purchase new equipment. Yet the charred memory of their marriage's demise still lingered in each sawn timber and every fresh coat of finish. Despite his professional rebound, Jasper had never truly moved on. When Emery proposed a joint pop-up at Brightbound, featuring oak and ash furniture alongside her memoir readings, Jasper had agreed, if only to honor their shared history. Thus, the From Ashes to Inspiration event became the crucible where they tested the possibility of working together again without reigniting old wounds. On the night of the pop-up, the cafe glowed with Edison bulb chandeliers and the scent of mulled cider. A live-edge walnut console table from oak and ash stood against the exposed brick wall, its organic curvature highlighted by uplights. Next to it, Emery's oak plank desk displayed journals open to her handwritten passages, flanked by harbor and hearth kits. When the event began, attendees mingled, swirling cider and discussing the synergy of wood and words. At precisely 8 o'clock, Emery stepped onto the small platform, her heart fluttering like a captive bird. She began to read. When I first saw the workshop ablaze, the roar of flames felt like my life burning too. The night I signed my divorce papers, I thought I'd lost every sawdust memory, every whispered promise. But in each ember that smoldered, I discovered a spark of possibility. Tonight, I stand before you not as someone defined by loss, but as someone reborn. Her words echoed in the hush, then applause bloomed like wildflowers. In the audience's periphery, Emery saw Jasper watching from the back, resolute, respectful, and still ever familiar. Their eyes met briefly. She offered a small nod. No proclamations, no regrets, only mutual acknowledgement of intertwined pasts. The success of that pop-up catapulted Emery's reputation. Local press sprang to life. Seattle Weekly featured an article headlined, "Seattle's New Storyteller Heals Through Journaling." King 5 News aired a segment on her creative kits. Book Riot ran an interview exploring Emery's transition from heartache to entrepreneurship. Social media buzzed with mentions at Harbor Hearth Kits, soared in followers. With growth came new challenges. Juggling workshop schedules, restocking supplies, and responding to collaboration requests. Emery hired a part-time assistant, Lena, a graphic design graduate who streamlined orders and managed social channels, freeing Emery to focus on writing and community engagement. By late winter, Emery's Etsy shop had garnered over 500 five-star reviews. Customers praised the notebook's craftsmanship and the transformative power of the journaling prompts. One review read, "Emery's kit helped me document my son's first steps after losing my husband. I finally found my voice again." Another, "Her chapbook, Phoenix Rising, gave me the courage to set boundaries in my own life." Each review reminded Emery why she persevered, not for fame or fortune, but to offer hope. Spring brought new horizons. Brightbound organized a traveling roadshow, Words and Wood, a mobile workshop series featuring Emery's journaling sessions paired with a rotating selection of oak and ash pieces. They toured Tacoma, Bellingham, and Olympia, hosting intimate gatherings in bookstores and makerspaces. Auburn's historic Carnegie Library welcomed them. Mount Vernon's waterfront saw a pop-up under cottonwood trees. Each event fostered connections among attendees, parents, artists, veterans, uniting them in shared stories of resilience. In June, the Puget Sound Women's Business Alliance honored Emery with the Emerging Entrepreneur Award. At the gala under crystal chandeliers, she accepted amidst a sea of supportive faces, Quinn by her side, Lena beaming, Rowan playing quietly with other children at a corner table. In her acceptance speech, Emery said, "This award belongs not only to me but to every person who refused to let their past define their future. To everyone here who turned grief into purpose. You inspire me." With summer's warmth came an invitation from Jasper. He was overseeing a major project for a boutique hotel in Bend, Oregon, a lobby installation featuring custom benches and interactive message boards engraved with Emery's journaling prompts. He asked if she would visit to see the finished work. Standing in that sunlit lobby later, Emery watched guests perch on ashwood benches, pause to write notes of gratitude on attached journals, and pin them to the central board. The merging of his craftsmanship and her words embodied the reconciliation of their legacies, separate but complementary. On her return to Seattle, Emery found Rowan drawing little trees on her office window with washable markers. She scooped him into her arms, inhaling his crisp shampoo scent. "Mama's back," she whispered into his hair. Rowan grinned, proffering a crayon sketch titled Our New Home. By Rowan's third birthday, Emery had completed Phoenix Rising in full, a memoir weaving her journey through heartbreak, uncertainty, and renewal. She secured a small publishing contract with Rainier Press, a regional independent press that valued authentic voices. The hardcover release featured a live-edge wood cover design she collaborated on with oak and ash artisans, a nod to the intertwined paths of mother and father. At the launch reading at Elliott Bay Book Company, the audience overflowed into the aisles. Emery's voice rose strong as she read the final chapter, her vow to continue rising, no matter how fierce the storms. That night, after the reading, Quinn, Jasper, and Emery gathered at a waterfront cafe overlooking Elliott Bay. String lights shimmered above, and fairy horns echoed in the distance. They toasted to new beginnings, her flourishing business, his thriving workshop, and the enduring bond of co-parents coalescing around Rowan's laughter. Emery gazed out at the water, feeling the ebb and flow of her life's tides. From the ruins of oak and ash to a vibrant creative community, from the pain of loss to the comfort of new friendships. From the sting of betrayal to the power of forgiveness and collaboration, her journey had been neither linear nor easy. Yet each setback had become a stepping stone, each ember a spark. As she tucked Rowan into bed later, reading him a bedtime story adapted from her own journals, she whispered, "Dream big, little one." He nestled into the covers, sleepy eyes fixed on the glow-in-the-dark stars she'd affixed to a ceiling. In the quiet stillness, Emery sat by his bedside, reflecting on how far she had come and how far she still would go. She reached for her phone and tapped out a message to Quinn. "Thank you for everything. Here's to the next chapter." Seattle's night sky stretched beyond the window, constellations shimmering like guiding lights. Emery Harper, once defined by embers and ashes, now stood as a living testament to resilience. Her story, carved in wood and ink, had become a beacon for others. And as dawn approached, she closed her eyes with a heart full of hope, ready to rise again. And that brings us to the end of today's story on Truistery Vibes. Don't forget to leave a comment with a quote or moment that touched you the most. Your words give our team the motivation to keep creating more heartfelt stories. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again soon.